It's too quick than I expected. So it says that configuration is required, installation is successful or succeeded. So you close it here, and then you could see that there is a notification here. This is the notification part. Click on this notification, and you could see that configuration required, and this is the configuration which you need to do for Active Directory domain services. Promote the server as a domain controller. So that's what here we are going to do. Create a forest, promote SD server as a domain control. So click on this, promote, add an existing. No, you're going to add a new forest because you don't have anything. So what is the domain name? It is nitish.kcca. Next, it is going to take a while to create the forest, not that time. So the forest function level is 2016 because we don't have anything in 2016. You have to give a password, so in case if you want to move something from your directory services, or you want to remove the domain controller, whatever you want to do, if you want to again access any of the settings file, config file of the domain controller, you need this password. So you can give the password. It says that delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative manager cannot be found. Should manually create the delegation. Okay, it's fine. So you can't create a DNS delegation here. It's okay. So click on next. So you could see that the domain name is automatically fetched. So go next. So these are the folders, these are the locations where the database, the log files and sysvol files are stored. Have a look at it if you want to know what is happening here. And then next. So it is going to validate the prerequisites. So here it says that all the prerequisite checks has passed successfully, you can install it, but here it gives you some warnings. Something is missing. It's fine. The DNS delegation and the default security settings, that's not something which you want to worry at the moment now for our setup or our requirements. So it's fine. So here we say that once the installation is done, the computer is being restarted because Active Directory is installed. So close, it will automatically restart, and when we restart this server, SDC will be a domain controller. So there is a difference between just having a server and having a domain controller. We are creating a domain and we are adding all the clients inside the domain, and this server would act as a controller, can control the entire network under the domain. So that's what the purpose of a domain controller is all about. So what we do is here are creating a domain. So let's say that we are creating a domain. Here in my case, it is Nitish is the domain which I'm creating. So in that domain, I would add all the computers. So any devices I want to add, I will add all of them. So let's say I have my client, I have my server, I have my client. So and I have another server. So let's say this is your SDC, this is your client S1, and this is your client C1, and this is your C server. So we add everything into this domain and promote this guy as a domain controller. So any requirements we need, any services we want to offer, we put it all here in this domain controller, and this domain controller will serve everyone or will control everyone. So the point is, we don't want to go and install everything in each of the computers. Rather than we do it once and then we can ask this domain controller to do it on our behalf, right? Hope this gives you some clarity on what we are doing and why we are doing. Instead of manually doing things every time, we are doing it once. We are first creating everything. We are setting up our network as a domain controller, and once it is done, um, everything will be under one control. So what we do here is we are creating a domain. Okay, so we are making everything, we are trying to put everything in a domain. Okay, and this domain is nitish.acca, and where I'm promoting this guy as my domain controller. He's the head now, and everyone here will be a member of this domain, and they will be controlled by the domain controller. That's what basically the idea of this entire coursework is, or entire task is. Here we go. We have our server, and now you could see that it is now part of Nitish slash administrator. It's not just administrator. It is a part of the domain. So it is now added as a domain, and it is now domain control. Now let's go in here, make it power on this machine so that we can first add this machine as part of the domain. Now we could see all the services are up, the domain controller, so domain AD and Active Directory domain services are up. And to see what are the options they can have. We have DNS. We haven't installed the configure DNS, but along with Active Directory, the DNS rules will also be installed. We have files and storage services as well. So anything we want to look at, go to the tools. So here you could see all the tools and all the users, computer, anything you want to do control using this domain controller, the tools are here. So let's go to the computers. You can see that there is a domain name here, nitish.ac. You open it, you have organizational units. These are the units, these are the folder kind of an arrangements. We call it as an organizational units. Each one has its own rules and features. So you see, click on the domain controller. You can see SDC is the domain controller. So you go to the properties, you could see sdc.nitish.acca, and it's a 2022 standard evaluation server, and it is a part of domain controller, and all the information you can find here. Click on computers. You don't have any computers at the moment because we haven't added any computers to this domain. We can try and do that here. Let's go to this user, and let's first see if they both can ping each other. Only when they can ping each other, when they can communicate each other, only when they can successfully ping each other, they can be able to you can able to add them into the domain, right? So cmd ping 192.168.1.1, and here you can ping. So the connection is that, so we have a successful connectivity between these two PCs. I mean the server and the PC, we have connectivity. That's a private thing. If you don't have a connectivity, you can't join in as a domain. Click on the systems, um, go to advanced system settings, computer name, and here you could see that um, change its domain or work group. So click on change domain, and it is by default in work group. Click here and it just give you a domain name, and then okay. It asks for username and password. It is administrator, the username of the server, and give the password of the server, and here we go. It should be connected in. Yeah, here we go. So it says that welcome to nitish.acca.domain. It's fine. So you must restart. So you restarted. Restart now. And now if you go into the computers, you could see when I refresh it, you could see that the client is here. So you don't want to go to the client to check what is the client or what are the details of the client. You just sit in the server. Then once you add the members into the domain, you can see everything and you can control it. So you can see that it is client s1.nitish.acca, that's a DNS name. Then it is a Windows 10 enterprise evaluation. It is part of domain computers. It is nitish.acca users. It's a number of users. Do not trust this computer for any delegation. Now we can change it whenever we want. So yeah, that's what it is. Which means eventually we have this computer joined in the domain. See, I will give you another example by adding users. So here we have an administrator, that is a default user we have. We can create a user manually. So let's go here in the users, right click new and user. So let's say I'm going to create, I already have Nitish, so I don't want to replicate it. So I'll go with Murugan and here as my username. Next, so give a password and we type my password, and I say that user must change login password. No, I don't want at this moment, but in industry practice usually they do. Password never expires is what I give, which we should not give in a real-time environment. So next, I just give it because I want it to be easier. So I've created Murugan and I right click Murugan and I go to the properties of this user. I could see all the information. So the login, the user login is Murugan at nitish.acca, and here you have this member. So he is a domain user, right? So I can click here, I can make him an administrator, and I can give, okay, I will show you the difference between a normal administrator and a domain administrator. So I click OK, I click OK. So we have created a user. Let's go here. Let's, instead of using it with Nitish, I will, which is a local login, I will go with login and then password. See, you could see that my last name is also seen there, and I'm getting logged in into this machine. I haven't created a user in this system, so that is not a user. Murugan is not a user who belong to the local Windows 10 machine. He's part of the server. So anything you want to control, you can control using your server domain controller. All right. So this is what usually these students make mistake, or they don't understand it, right? So I have Murugan. I have made Murugan as a member of administrator as well, right? And I go in here. So he's an administrator, ncpa.cpl, and if I want to change anything, I can't change because it needs an administrator username and password. If I give Murugan and I give password, it is not accepting because it says that he's not an admin. Why is he not an admin? Why can't he change it? Even though we have given him the administrator privilege. He said that member of administrator. I will okay, let me create another one. So new user, this time Munya Veera, and then I say Munya ACCA. Next, give a password to him. Don't change the password. Password never expires. Finish. And now for Munya, we go to the properties, go to the member. He's also a domain user, but now I'm going to add him to domain administrators. So anything you are going to give, it should be part of domain admins. So now I give it's a domain admin apply. Okay. Let me close this. Sign off, and then other user sign in Estonia. So you can see again it gets in the details, the default details which it wants. It takes a while as a new user. You can control this user from the server. Right. So here we go. You are in SD-LAN. You want to change that. So now you see the difference. It is the actual administrator of it is the actual administrator rights which we want to give. So you have to be very careful when you are assigning rights. It's not a normal administrator. Hereafter it is part of the domain. Okay, so anything you do is part of the domain. Okay, so you understand this here. It is very important for you to understand. So what we have done so far is we have created a domain. So I will put this like this. This is our domain. So the name of the domain is nitish.acca, right? So I first added this PC, this server part of the domain, and promoted this as my domain controller, which means the boss. Okay, so the next step, what I have done here is I have added this guy to the domain, which means he can now control he can now control this PC. Okay, so this one is now part of the domain as well, which means any activity, any group policy I'm going to give here, anything which I'm going to give here in the domain, everything will be applied to all the clients which are here. So how am I giving everything here? How are the rules set? They're all set to the domain controller, and the domain controller will send everything to any of the clients we are having. So there could be multiple clients. So at one push, everything will be sent to the all the entities within the network. So anything you're going to give, you have to make sure that it is a domain-based entity you're going to give on. So we have so anything we have completed, we will allow it up. So we have created the domain, and we have created the domain for us and promoted it as a domain controller, right? So the next thing we will be doing is the VPN. Okay, so this one as well we have done it. I haven't created uh, the user accounts using a list. Okay, so usually you, for example, let's say for our example, your class, you have 50 students. We don't sit and or the network admins or the technicians don't sit and type in each one of your details, rather than they will export it. Okay, so there will be a CSV file, or there will be a system which can directly export it inside. So that's how we do. So here in this case, we have like 100 users. You don't want to manually type all the users and assign rights. It's going to take a lot of time, and there will be a lot of mistakes, errors happening. So in order to avoid that, you put everything in an Excel sheet, and then you export that Excel sheet using PowerShell scripts. We will talk about PowerShell scripts in one of our videos as well. Okay, so these two things we have done. So the next thing we will focus is on the routing and routing and remote access service. Okay,